Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Culkin's Trubergy, also known as Byron Sidious. We seem to have a misunderstanding. I don't believe this has to be a particularly long piece, and though it addresses or may grab the attention of one of the most spergtastic segments of YouTube and X/Twitter, the animation enthusiasts of the internet, I doubt that even they will be able to offer much in the way of counterpoints to the observations that I'll be making herein, nor do I suspect that they would necessarily want to. One of the most popular original programs to ever grace the airwaves of Cartoon Network was Steven Universe. Like it or leave it, there isn't a clean way to deny that the show was a cultural and ratings success. It's recently come back into popular cultural awareness, thanks apparently to the voice actress for the character of Pearl being suspected of being a Donald Trump supporter, or a member of, quote, MAGA. The show features young Steven, his father Greg, and a trio of peculiar members of an all-feminine alien race known as Gems. Living in a small coastal township, I believe it's called Beach City, Steven and this trio, known as the Crystal Gems, contend with all manner of oddness and oddities that crop up in and around the township related in some way to this alien race. Cards on the table, I ended up watching the show for a while because my daughter Avery was strongly drawn to it as a kid. At first, I thought it was an interesting little program as a surface-level kind of kids sci-fi sort of thing. It didn't take long, however, for things to start getting iffy for me, and likewise for me to start nudging my kiddo away from the show. Thankfully, my little nudges worked and she moved on. Now, I'm not here to perform a deep analysis or critique of the show. For starters, when I do analysis, it's mostly for books. Secondly, I have not watched the entirety of the series, so I would not be able to render a fully authentic and thorough analysis. It is not my intention to mislead people when performing such critiques. What I am here to do, however, friends and neighbors, is explain succinctly why the Gems in Steven Universe are neither icons of the LGBT HDTV community nor of feminism, as so many folks in these shows' fandom broadly and loudly shriek and proclaim. Firstly, the fandom often chirps up about Pearl and Rose Quartz's relationship, and Pearl's obvious romantic inclinations towards Steven's mother. Of particular note, they focus on Pearl's musical number, You Do It For Him, You Do It For Her. On top of this, they add in Pearl's obvious attraction to a local woman in a couple of episodes. What this observation fails entirely to account for is that viewers are shown, throughout the entire run of the series, that all of the sentient, non-monstrous gems are feminine/female in affect and presentation. There is no masculine/male affected and formed gem that isn't shown as a mutation or monster. The gems are planted and grown. There is no sexual aspect to their species. Yes, they form attachments of a personal companionship nature, as they are sentient creatures. That is clear in the show. The whole gem fusion technique does have shades of parental contribution, resulting in a unique third form. I'll even grant you that. And there may be nods with characters like Jasper to slightly more masculine-leaning yet still androgynous presentations of characterization. Despite all of this, I have to point out that even that bastion of left-wing idiocy, Reddit posts, clarify that the gem race is sexless and agender. only relying upon feminine terminology for the purposes of using earthling languages. If there's no sexual function or utility, then there is no sexuality to cling to, folks in the fandom. If there's no gender to the species, there are no gender roles for feminism to rally and rail against in the program. In point of fact, it would be my pleasure to take this opportunity to do what the progressive shitlib types have been doing to traditional and or, quote, normie IPs for time out of mind. I'd like to now analytically subvert their precious little cartoon. You see, Steven Universe quite inadvertently expresses the vital importance of benevolent masculinity. Greg Universe, Steven's father, is portrayed as a bit of a goober, yes, but he is present and accounted for in Steven's life. A former peacocking musician, when push came to shove, he accepted responsibility and duty as a man and as a father, settling for a simpler life, owning and operating a small business in order to provide for himself, his son, and these weird-ass crystal gems people. It is Greg's example that informs Steven's sense of duty and protectiveness toward his community and his friends. Doubtless this also helps provide balance in the home environment, offsetting the copious feminine energy of the crystal gems, generating the traditional mother-father dynamic, which forms the greatest potential for a growing child's positive growth and outcomes. Steven also is noted by characters within the framework of the program itself as having potential, power, and abilities beyond that of other known gems. One may well chalk this up to his nature as half-human, a trope that one sees in plenty of other fiction, yes. But this is Steven Universe, not Stephanie. Even series creator Rebecca Sugar created a male lead for this role of, quote, limitless potential in a feminine-dominated galactic framework. Seems pretty high praise for the masculine, if you ask me. For the ultra-liberal fandom members, cope and seethe. Not so keen on this interpretive lens shit when it's aimed at your sacred cows, I imagine. That's all for now. This was fun. Cheers.